Time of year where you don't have to put everything away. You can still do some outdoor projects. As a matter of fact, it's a great time to do some of those projects outside. Chad Lyer is joining me from Aero Service Team. And today, Chad, I'm guessing from all the paint cans and brushes, we're going to talk about some outdoor painting.
We're going to talk about exterior painting because you can do exterior painting pretty much spring till late fall. And the time that it's not real strong to do is in the middle of the summer when it's super hot out.
Yeah, because not only is it uncomfortable for the painter, but it's not as good a time to paint either for the actual product.
No, you get way too much buildup. If it's hot out, you're in the sun, you can't get anything done. You're going to have problems with your finish.
Okay, now there are some times, the mornings are cooler, the evenings turn cooler. There are some times that are optimum to paint outside at this time of the year because you want to be careful that it's not too cool outside. But like you said, you can find most of your answers, if not all of them, if you just
read the label.
There you go.
It's right there on
right there.
every single can.
Somebody like me will need his cheaters for that, but it's right there for you. Okay, 50 degrees. You don't want to be painting below that. Is that accurate?
As a general rule of thumb, and that's your surface temperature on your material you're painting, Wayne. So, like this time of the year, it's a little bit different because in the summer, you try to avoid the sun.
Exactly.
Okay, now that we're getting into fall, I don't know what it's supposed to be nice over the weekend, but I mean, if we're in the 70s or whatever, follow that sun around the house if you can, and that's going to warm that surface up, and you're probably going to have a surface temperature, very similar to the outside temperature. You don't want to be over 90 degrees in that surface temperature, but I think it's going to be very, very unlikely. The sun is not as potent as it was a couple months ago, or even a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so in other words, it's just the exact opposite of how you would paint in the summer. There you want to start on the east and the west side in the morning and work your way around to the east side as the sun comes around. Here you're doing just the opposite.
And skip the south side and do the north, and and so that's kind of one of the big differences with like painting in the spring or the fall is you want to make sure that that surface area is fairly warm. You want to. There's different cans. Some will say down to 32 degrees, but I think if you're above 50 is probably a better guideline for any product.
Okay, what's the deal with cooler temperatures? Does it just take longer to dry, or what's the thing?
Well, that's where it comes down to reading the label. I have this stain here, which is more of like something you'd use on a deck or
cedar
like my garage door. That's kind of the plan there. These very clearly say it cannot get below 50 degrees for 24 to 48 hours after it's applied.
So you have to pay attention.
So you have to pay attention to the weather, okay? But then when you get into like one of these, this is a more versatile paint where it's called like a, max or whatever, and I think that stands for adhesion and also for temperature varieties. And this paint will cure down to 33 degrees. It says do not freeze, so it can go all the way down, but it does say on there that you should have a surface temperature of above 45 degrees on this particular can. Okay. So that would mean, like the surface that you're painting should be above 45 degrees, and it cannot freeze for 48 hours. Okay. But it can get below 50 degrees.
So if you are painting in the sun, even though it's probably 48 degrees, that surface might be a little warmer because the sun still has some potency at this particular time. Dew points, how important are those? You don't want it to be too humid, I wouldn't think.
No, because if you're painting and let's say, even the faster setup paints, 24 hours to at least a decent cure. If you hit a dew point early the next morning and there's like dew all over, I mean, you've seen your car, where it's had the water all over it. If you get to that point the next morning, that paint's going to have blemishes because you're going to have water spots that are going to be in the finish, and you also could have potential running marks and things like that.
Okay, so all of that can be found on the label, and you do want to start, just to reiterate, you want to paint with the sun at this time of year.
Absolutely. At this time of the year, you want to be with the sun because for one, you can see what you're doing really well, and two, it adds a little bit of temperature. And if we have a day where it's upper 80s, you might want to stay out of the sun, but as a general rule, this time of the year, you can probably put your hand on. If it feels warm to the touch, it's probably too warm. If it feels normal to you, if it's not warmer than you are, it's probably okay.
Got it. All right, the other thing is some people want a paintbrush. Well, a paintbrush is not just a paintbrush, it's a paintbrush. There are different kinds, there are different sizes, there are different shapes and even different materials that paintbrushes are made of.
Yeah, and basically we're set up for some exterior products here. Right. There's two major different types of brushes. Ones that have like a natural fiber, which is called like a China bristle. I'm not sure
Okay.
if it's from China or what it's from. It's more of a natural bristle, and then you have a synthetic brush. These are probably 90% of the market.
Okay.
The synthetic brushes. They're really good for your latex paints, your primers, things like that. These China bristles, we got a couple different sizes.
I'm gonna see if I can feel the
definitely feel the difference.
Oh, this one's actually softer. I thought it would be the other way around.
No, this is softer because it picks up more paint.
Got it.
Stain doesn't pick up as well, so you have more there for it to cling to.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay, then the cleanup is obviously different, you know, water, spirits, things like that. So basically what you want to do is you don't want to use a China bristle brush. Well, the wind's coming around us here a little bit, but the China bristle brush is for stains, really thin things, right?
Okay.
Pretty much anything else, like you're going to paint like the brown parts of my house, you're going to want to use a synthetic brush.
Okay. Now, you've got this that's got the tapered, you know, it's tapered, and then you've got a paintbrush, and don't worry about the size here, but this is straight across. These have different purposes depending on the shape of the bristles.
Yeah, at our company, we use these as for trimming, you know,
Yep.
kind of come along. You do a nice job with your edges, things like that. These bigger paintbrushes, we use a lot of 4-inchers. You get into a deck, you get into a fence, things like that. Put it in the bucket, you carry quite a bit of product with
Exactly.
you.
It's a little quicker process than if you're using a narrower brush, obviously.
Yeah, and the thing is this holds the paint better. These China bristles, you're going to have a lot of dripping, so you want to make sure you get your drop cloths down, because even though there's a lot more material here, it's still, you know, obviously stain is like motor oil. It's thin.
Yeah.
Where a latex paint is pretty thick. So
Okay.
you want to make sure you're more careful with drop cloths when you're staining than painting.
If this one is a little more messy, and if this one holds more, or you know, depending, as you described it, what is the advantage then of a natural?
The natural is pretty much just for those really thin products.
Okay, gotcha. So if you are staining or something like that, you want to go that route.
Yeah, and I brought one more brush, which is kind of my personal favorite because like I only do things the easy way.
There you go.
And I got this brush, and I really love it because it is a brush, but you can put an extension on it. And if you're gonna like paint your deck,
There you go.
how about that? Like versus being on your
Exactly.
knees.
Hands and knees, and your
So-
yes, that makes perfect sense. All right, you mentioned wind a while ago. That's something you want to pay attention to. Too.
Yeah, especially even in that 24-hour period. You know, if you get done painting, it looks really nice, and you're in an area with a lot of construction or something like that, and the wind comes up, you don't want to get stuff stuck in your paint. You want to make sure that that tackiness is gone before that wind forecast changes.
Okay, now I don't want to speak for you, Chad, but my guess is Aero Service Team is not going to come out and paint your deck or your house, right? But there are a lot of other things that you guys will
We
do.
do, and we do a little bit of that, probably more for the jobs that we currently have
Okay.
going.
All right, that sounds good. Where do we find Aero Service Team? And tell us not only where you're located, but also online and everything else.
We're on the internet, our website, Facebook. Our phone number is 223-9249. We're in Bismarck on Broadway and Dickinson out by Rough Rider RV. And if you have any other questions, you can always just give me a call. I'll take your call just about any time.
All right, your dad did great last month, but we missed you.
Oh, well, thank you. I was gone for the month. So.
Good to have you back. All right, we're going to take a break.